Hey Jack, I thought I'd make a video of a lesson one, a very introductory lesson for electric bass. And being that maybe we couldn't find a time to meet, this might work best for both of us. So I want to just start out with some simple things to get you started and moving along. When we learn an instrument, there's usually three things, and of course we're related to the electric bass, but first thing would be technique, and whether it's the electric bass or any instruments, there's usually some kind of technique involved in producing, correct notes. So in this case it'd be your fingers as they pluck the strings and where to place them and how to do that correctly. And then the other hand is placement of the hand, where on the fingerboard, and how you properly hold the strings down, things like that. So that's the technique portion. The second part would be knowledge of the instrument. So in this case, on this hand, it's pretty simple. It'd be where to place your fingers to get the sound that you're looking for. This hand, this is really the tough part, and it can be a challenge. It's just the fretboard knowledge, knowing where to put your fingers to get the notes that you want and what the note names are, things like that. And the final thing would be, this is the hardest of them all, is actually musicianship. On any instrument you have to deal with that. And to explain that, it would be knowing with your mind in your ear, knowing where to put your hands, how to play then the technique part, as well as the knowledge of the fretboard to produce the sounds that you want. So that is really the hardest. That's a lifelong journey, the musicianship. So let's start off with some simple things. First of all, I think, I've changed my technique and I've changed the manner in which I've played over the years to revise it, and I go back and forth on certain things. But one of the things I think is kind of important, and definitely when you're first starting out, is where to put the bass. A lot of people just put it on the one knee or leg here and play with the bass somewhat horizontal. But you have some knowledge and ability playing the upright bass, so sometimes you might want to play like that. And I actually think it's a good idea to do it in a classical guitar method, where you put the instrument kind of between the two legs, so with it strapped on, but so that you don't have to hold it. And I think this is a very good way to do it. That way you don't have to you can freely use your hands to produce the sound, to hold down the strings, so you don't have to hold it in place. So you see that the bass stays in place without me having to use my hands to hold it there. This hand, we'll start with this hand, the plucking hand. And like I said, I've changed how I think this should go. For some years, I always thought you anchor your thumb. You put your thumb like right over the pick. Often for me, it's this pick in the back, the bridge pickup, to get because the strings are very tight right there, to get the plucking sound. But as time goes on, I've actually now believed that you can use your thumb as an anchor, but it should be more of like a guide. And you don't actually anchor your finger, because you want to have mobility and want to have the ability to move your instrument around. So if I kind of move back here a little bit more, you can see it better. But with the bass in place, not moving around, you should be able to produce the sound this way. I think I pulled it out here. And just, I'll mute the string, but yeah, you can anchor it, and you can put your thumb on the strings like this as you go along, but I actually think it's really a good idea to have the mobility. So you kind of put your arm on this portion of the body and slide it around. Does it work in every situation? No, but I think this is really the best way to go. That way you're not putting a lot of stress on your fingers and things like that. then this hand, at least we'll start off, the best way to do it is to do one finger per fret, and definitely works out easy like this if you think finger 1 on fret 1, finger 2 on fret 2, and 3 and 4 and so on. And you can see it here, but this is actually, since it's so far down in the neck, it's really hard to play compared to up here. So let's start this technique where we're, the position, we'll start on the 9th fret, so if you count it up you'll see the dots. It's actually the single dot right here before you get to the double dots. That's usually the case on most basses. And we can just do 1, 2, 3, 4. Lay all your fingers down, 1 per fret, and make sure you pay attention where they are at, because they should be right almost on top of the fret, but right before it on each finger. And as you lay it down, keep all the fingers down. So you lay them down in that sequence, and you know, I place down the second finger, I still have the first one down. It's good to get into that habit. Now the other thing I want to mention is that I think it's a great idea to always play with, play with an amp. And the reason being is that if we want to let the amp do all the work, not let our fingers do all the work. Only because I know from my past, there's times where I've done 4-hour gigs, and if I'm plucking really hard, I get tired after a couple hours in, or even less. So I think it's a good idea to just turn the amp up, but delicately use your fingers. So I'm definitely promoting that more. So what I'd state is that you should almost never play electric bass without it plugged in. Don't get me wrong, you can fool around with it, but you shouldn't be using all the muscle in your hands to produce the notes, and you want to get in the habit of practicing it with light fingers, because there's another part of this for musicianship, is that if you play lightly, then you actually have somewhere to go, somewhere higher if you want to play louder notes. But if you're always hitting your notes really hard, and that's where your normal volume is, and you have nowhere to go except down. So I think it's a good idea to get in this technique, and you might notice my thumb is not really, it's kind of on a string, more to mute it so it doesn't make noise. But I think it's a good idea. I've revised my technique over the years, but to just, if you take a look at my fingers, I think it's a good idea to move them like this, as opposed to keeping them straight, which I do that as well, and I'll really dig in and I'll play with my fingers straight. A lot of people do this, and I still play that way a ton, but I think for new players it's a great idea to get into the practice and habit of playing with your fingers curved, kind of like classical guitar. But I think you only need your 2 fingers. You could add your 3rd or even 4th if you want, but let's at least start with this, where we get the 2 fingers, just, they call it walking, but we want to get into the habit where we're able to do the plucking like this. Another thing, hygiene-wise, which will change the sound, we want to make sure our fingernails are always well trimmed. If they're too long, they'll scrape against the string and we'll get a bad tone. We want to make sure we get a good tone out of this. So, like that, get in a good habit. I think a good exercise would be to constantly just practice plucking. So this exercise, I think this would be a good homework exercise, and to do this over and over until you feel very comfortable without having to look at your hands. You do it with muscle memory. And just one finger that you're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, then 4, 3, 2, 1. And then we go to the next ring. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then you get pretty good at that back and forth, and you can do all of these in a sequence, so you're more like in a complete pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4. Next string. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I also think it's a very good habit, and I would love every musician to do this who can sing along what they're playing, that adds to another level of musicianship. So as best you can hum, you can just sing it in your head, but you go as close as you can, because this is a wide range. It might be hard to get all those notes, but and maybe you have to go down the octave to get these higher notes if it's not in your range. And then back down. And if you get that really well, take that pattern, go down one fret, do the same thing. And maybe do the whole fretboard. You'll notice that your fingers will be spreading further apart as you go down, or down or up, but down in sound on the fingerboard. Work on that, and you'll notice that my other hand has the bent, relaxed, bent feeling as I do it. A couple other things to be aware of is how to get a good tone. So obviously we have your knobs. Your knobs on your bass might be different. You probably have volume, one for each pickup, and then a third one is a tone. You might even have a fourth tone depending on the configuration. But for beginning, you can have volume up on both of them, and I tend to play over this bridge pickup. This would be the neck pickup. That gets a little deeper in tone. They all have their niche, the reason why you play over them in certain places. Start with that, and this is just technique, but we are introducing knowledge of the fretboard. So this 9th fret, the notes we're dealing with here is C sharp, and you could try to figure that out. We get up to the E on here, and get to know some of the fretboard that way, and get into the third thing, which is musicianship, by trying to sing along with what you're playing. Again, I know sometimes it's embarrassing. Maybe you got your friend or somebody in the other room and you don't want them to hear you sing, but really it pays off to do it that way, because then you make music in your mind instead of just with your hands, and then you're a musician without your instrument. So hey, work on that. I hope that's helpful, and I hope you gain some ground on the instrument. Thanks. Bye.